You're listening to the Cynic Radio Podcast. Now, your hosts, Igri and Cynic.
You are listening to episode 20 of the Cynic Radio Podcast, and I am your host, Cynic, and with me as always, my co-host, and the only man that has ever been excommunicado for violating Costco's one per person rule on free samples, Igri. Our good friends Jewel and Ryan are back with us, and on this week's show, we're covering the latest offering from The Walking Dead, Hostiles and Calamities. We're also going to do a spoiler-free overview of John Wick 2. As always, we have a little bit of Really and What's Up, and we're going to do some listener mail. We are the Cynic Radio Podcast, and the conversation continues here with us.
All right, boys and girls, Vulcans, Wookiees, and whatever else has been sending us all these messages. You asked it, we're answering it. This is listener mail.
All right, so I understand we've gotten a little behind on it, and we haven't done it in a couple weeks, so we're going to clean up a little bit of listener mail. Ian from Newport News, Virginia writes, you asked a couple weeks ago about someone betraying Rick's group. Do you think it could be Rosita? She's acting kind of shady. What do you think, Ig?
Yeah, I think it could be, but I don't know if she's smart enough to do it. Unless it comes with blowing some things up to betray the group because she's going to go ahead and she's tired of this shit and I'm going to blow it all up. I still think it's going to be somebody else. But it's a good question. I think Rosita has some possibility, but I don't think that's who's going to do it. It's too easy and she's not important enough.
I think she's a prime candidate to do it only because of the way she's so angry that, you know, maybe she's like, screw these guys. I'm just going to kind of go do what I want to do. Maybe the war is not progressing fast enough, or if there's a betrayal on her part, I think it's going to be completely inadvertent. Dawn from Birmingham in the UK writes, my friends and I really enjoy your What Is Love shows. Will you be doing any more? Well, Dawn, that's a great question. We're actually going to try to do at least one a month. They're going to be bonus shows, usually on a Saturday. The easiest way for you to keep up on what we're doing is to subscribe to the Facebook page or just subscribe on iTunes, which then the show, whatever we do, will show up directly on your phone. What do you think of the What Is Love shows, Ig?
Oh, the What Is Love shows really gives us a chance to show you how experienced we've been in our lives, because here's the thing, you know, we're generally just standard, everyday, straight men, but we've been around the block once or twice, and we've known lots of people. So, you know, we have a wealth of information from young to old. We've raised children. We've experienced all kinds of different things, and we love to share our knowledge with you. And some of it might not be knowledge you agree with, but you know, different viewpoints start the conversation, and that's really all we like to do here on the Cynic Radio Podcast. We like to start the conversation.
Melissa from Orange County, New York writes, I notice you sometimes put audio after the show. Why do you do that?
Well, here's the thing. You know, we have conversations sometimes during the podcast, sometimes before the podcast, sometimes after the podcast. And sometimes some things happen while we're recording that we simply just have to cut out. That was just so hilarious that we have to give you that little snippet just so that you can have a little part of our world. But here's the thing. It's not going to be always. It's going to be sometimes. And we hope that you enjoy it. They will show up again, but it's not going to be every episode. So I think we're going to associate some contests with those in the future. But you got to listen. You got to be around.
Yeah, growing up, we were big fans of The Simpsons, and they sometimes did that, and Marvel's kind of taken up that mantle as well. The cutscenes at the end of the movies, you know, it makes you sit through the credits, it makes you sit through the end music. So I thought it was something kind of funny that we came up with one day, and we've kind of kept going with it.
Parkour!
So send your emails, tweets, Facebook messages to CINIKRADIO.com, at CINIKRADIO on Twitter, or find us on Facebook at Facebook/CINIKRADIO. All right, this morning we're going to take a little bit of time and talk about episode 11, Hostiles and Calamities. The episode starts with our favorite cosplayer, Dwight, finding out that Daryl is gone, and he gets the oh shit look that we all know because you know exactly how much trouble you're in. What do you think Dwight was thinking when he saw Easy Street Daryl's Snuggie in the aftermath of the very Rick James fuck your couch in your chessboard visit, Ig?
Man, he had to think, I'm all done. This is the end of the road for me. So, you know, not Daryl. Maybe Daryl would get his vest back eventually, but not Daryl still has it.
Oh, yeah, he definitely had, oh, fuck, written all over his face. He knew he was in for it.
Yeah, that was a good bit of acting too, like kind of shock followed by just being perplexed as to what happened, followed by like the look of shit, I got to figure out where he is, but really kind of deep down knowing that he's not going to find him. So I thought it was a good bit of acting, and yeah, it must have been a shitty feeling, especially knowing like that he's gonna have to tell that Negan will find out soon.
It's sort of like when you lose power to your house and you walk into a room and you try to turn the light switch on. The run to the cell, as unnecessary as we knew it was, just to go, oh man, and kick the door. And he had to think like, I'm gonna catch the full weight of this, whether I let him out or not. This is definitely gonna be on me. So we move to our next part of the hilarity as they unload Eugene from the truck. And the nice part about kidnapping somebody like Eugene is that he already comes pre-broken. No easy street needed.
That's the truth.
What do you think he was thinking when he saw the pleasant dorm room rather than the set from Hostel, which he was expecting?
Yeah, he definitely looked, and it was like, no, I'm about to be tortured, and then it was, oh, there's a nice bed there, and I think I see a refrigerator. Is that a plant? Yeah, I think there was a wave of relief that washed over him, and then probably had to question, why am I being put in here? This doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah, he played it like it was relief. So I'm assuming that was what Eugene's reaction was. I would think this is messed up. They're really trying to mess with me. No, of course these evil people that bash people's heads in with barbed wire baseball bats aren't gonna allow me to live in a nice dorm with beer and food and I can even get spaghetti. I would think no, they're messing with me, and I'd be even more skeptical and more afraid. But it seemed like Eugene's kind of a coward, so I think he needed some sign that things would be okay, and so that door opening up to a nice space was for him. He was going to accept it and hope that things would be all right.
What do you think, Egg? Did he look like a college kid in his first look around his new dorm room?
Yeah, I think he was more looking for Ashton Kutcher because he thought he was being pranked. So I don't know that he understood that he was taken because of his ability to do something that the saviors needed, and not because it was punishment. He was taken just like the supplies. So when you take your supplies, you got to take care of the supplies that you take. And they took him, and they're going to take care of him because they need him around.
Maybe that would be a good spin-off show, the zombie apocalypse version of Punk starring Negan. When you see him checking everything out, do you think he was thinking that this may be a better situation for him, Ren?
Throughout I got that feeling that he was starting to think, wow, this might be good, but I just can't tell. Like there's a part that thinks, his character is afraid and is a bit of a coward. So I think in a lot of ways, whatever will make things go by easier, he's going to stick with. So there's a part of me that thinks he sees that and is hopeful and thinks, oh wow, this might be a better situation. But then there is the part that thinks, well, no, he can't be okay with it. He's got to be thinking or plotting some kind of escape. It might be a long, a long-term plan, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to read.
I think he probably was looking around, seeing a stocked fridge and stuff, and the room doesn't look bad. It's looking comfortable, but I think it's hard to ever fully forget what he witnessed with Negan, killing his friends. I think that's got to be in the back of your mind. While yeah, you might have this refrigerator stocked here, we know what Negan's capable of. So I hope that he's not kind of forgetting all of that.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm pretty sure that it turns into a situation where you make the best of what's around you. If that's what's available to you, you're not going to refuse it all, because then you look like you're trying to subvert the system. So you take part of the system, you eat the food, you drink the beer, you play the video games. But at the same time, I think he might be watching for opportunities. I don't think he's going to, even though he said later, I'm Negan, I knew I was Negan, I just needed to meet you to know I'm Negan. I think that's a survival technique, not necessarily he's going to be the one that betrays the group. I don't think he's the one either.
When Eugene is walking away from discussing with Negan about fixing the rotting walker problem on the fence, he smiles. Ryan, what do you think Eugene was thinking?
That he's going to be okay. That Negan's not there to torture him and, make him suffer. So, and that he's not going to die. So I think that that's the smile. But also he thinks highly of his intelligence. So that may have also been a smile of, wow, I just got his approval. Like I just showed him how smart I was, kind of like, sometimes if you think of something like off the top of your head in the moment and you kind of want to pat yourself on the back, it might've been that too. So it could have been part like safety, but also part like, wow, that was a good one. I can't believe I did that.
Perfectly said, Ryan. I agree. It's, hey, did I just get away with that? I think I did. They bought that story just like this other group. He's in that self-preservation mode again. So I think he's, definitely giving himself a pat on the back like, oh, that worked out in my favor pretty well.
He's got him on the same lie that he used initially. He had Abraham and Rosita and everybody following along, protecting him on that same lie. So that lie is a really well-crafted lie. And when he bought it initially, like, he had to come up with one pretty simple idea and then explain, hey, I'm this person that really is a Dr. Smarty Pants. You ought to listen to me. And Negan bit it, hook, line, and sinker, just took it. It worked, and he knew he had him. He knew he had him. So that's what the smile is about. He knew he had him.
I think the way he speaks in such a matter-of-fact tone all the time, too, really sells it. I mean, he doesn't seem like he's a bullshitter. He seems like he's straightforward. This is what's going on, and that's that. And so I think that helps to sell his story.
Well, he uses official words. His wording is very straightforward. It's very, the only thing he's missing is a uniform, and people would just buy it completely. They'd be like, all right, he's an authority figure because he knows how to talk well, and, he knows how to speak well, and he's, he's on top of things. I think there was a lot of identifiable moments in this, much like Dwight running to the room and opening the door, knowing that Daryl's not going to be there. Eugene walking away from that meeting with Negan with that smile on his face. We've all gotten away with something. We've all snaked out of a situation and got that same smile as we were walking away, like, wow, I got away with that one. I can't believe it. I think the funny part about Eugene with the Saviors is it's a complete fish in water story. This is the situation that would have benefited him all along. If Abraham just said, well, we're going to start doing this, he would have dropped the Washington thing like a hot, like a hot potato. He would have been like, all right, yeah, let's just set up base and we'll fortify and everything will be great. When Negan asks Eugene, so does Rick have you doing cool, important shit like this? And Eugene was like, no. Is Negan a slightly better leader than Rick, Haiji?
No, because I think that it's still ruling through fear, one, which I think is a short game. You can't keep that going.
Okay, let me rephrase the question. Is he a smarter leader?
And no, I don't necessarily think that either, because we all know that this is a game. Just because Eugene came up with an idea and can do some things doesn't mean that some of those things are the smartest things to be doing. Negan sees somebody that might be able to do some stuff, and Rick already knows the truth that everything he was saying was a lie. That being the case, you can't say that he's doing the right thing and trusting everything to Eugene.
Negan's wives seem to become over-friendly. Do you think they were doing that under his orders, or do you think they had their own agenda when it came to Eugene, Julie?
Initially I thought it was probably under Negan's orders, hey, give this guy a fun time because he's, an asset to us. But then, the more the scene was going on, then I started to feel like these guys seem to have something up their sleeve, especially when they were like, oh, I can talk about the Human Genome Project all night. Then I started to be like, okay, they're trying to figure out exactly how smart he is, what he knows, how they can help him. That was sort of where I was headed. But then I also was wondering if Negan asked them to find out what he knows in a different kind of way. I wasn't 100% sure, but it definitely felt like they were using it more to their advantage than to Negan's advantage.
Well, if he's not going to let him stroke anything else, at least let them stroke his ego, right?
Right.
What do you think, Ryan?
I don't know. I'm not sure what to think, because I did think... initially I thought, okay, maybe he's having them kind of push the limits. It seemed genuine that they wanted the pills, but it almost seemed too forward. Like in a normal setting, you'd plant seeds, take some time, kind of stroke his ego, get him to trust you, and then ask for that. It was too obvious the way that they, it was too obvious that there was something more than just, for her to kill herself. And it was a weird story. So there's a part of me that thought that was all a setup from Negan to see if he would go through with it or how far he would go through with it. So it just was, hard to tell, but then at the same time, they didn't really follow up on it, or at least not yet. So I don't know. I'm not sure where they're going with that. And it was hard to get a real read for it, except they just didn't seem, it seemed too rushed for it to genuinely be them wanting him to, get a pill to kill Negan.
I don't know. Maybe it's black dresses make you trustworthy. Because 24 hours and, hey, we want to help our friend kill herself, and we need 2 pills, not just one that would let her kill herself. We need 2 of them. We need a spare. We need a backup. Something seems fishy. Something seems off, and you don't ask somebody like that. I met you 24 hours ago, so how about we do this now? It was a stretch.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there. I wasn't buying it from the word go, and I felt. It came across to me as more self-serving. I didn't think it was a Negan ploy. I think it was all them. It was their opportunity to try to deal with a problem. You find a new guy that hasn't seen what everybody else saw there and try to take advantage of it before it becomes too scared to do anything. You have to love Eugene's D&D reference about lawful, neutral, and chaotic good. If you had to place a D&D label on yourself, Ig, what would it be?
I'd probably be a little more chaotic good. I know I have a tendency to kind of go off the deep end a little bit and yell and scream and tirade around, but I generally think I'm a pretty good person at heart, and I try and do the right thing most of the time. Just sometimes my methods by getting there might be a little off.
Fantasy me would be probably chaotic good, but realistically I'm lawful good. Boring, old, lawful good.
Yeah, I tend to skew a little chaotic evil at times, but chaotic good would probably be the same for me. What did you think of Eugene's decision to be bold and yell at the lady about the medicine, cut the line, and just take whatever the hell he wanted, Ryan?
That was out of character for me. I didn't quite get that. For somebody who is not trying to ruffle any feathers and who wants to kind of ingratiate himself to Negan and the community, to lash out like that just didn't make sense. And I was trying to see where it would go, or if there would be any repercussions for it, but it just seemed to happen. And then also, if you're going to get pills to create poison, why would you make such a loud kind of ruckus about it? Like, just get your pills quietly and go and do what you need to do. So that seemed out of character. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like when you go into the drugstore for tampons or condoms and you buy 80 other things to mask the fact that you're buying something of a sensitive nature. Well, here, I'll just throw a porno mag on there, too, to just throw them off my scent. Yeah. What'd you think of that whole scene, Julie?
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely out of character for Eugene. It also felt very fast for him to be making such a bold statement since he had pretty much just gotten there. But then, I thought maybe he's trying to assert a different persona here. Maybe this is his chance to be a different person. Maybe he's embracing, possibly a different position within this savior organization.
Well, I think it was more like Eugene before he realized or told everybody about his lie previously. So I don't think it was as far as a stretch as we think it was. However, I think this was more about the Grimly Gump than it was about anything else. He wanted that little stuffed toy, and it was a good mass, so now he's got a bedpan and a whole bunch of pills and a Gribbly Gump. I think it might have been more about that. I mean, he needs a little friend that isn't going to betray him, and the Gribbly Gump is that.
Do you think in private he calls it Abraham?
He might.
One of the biggest lines of this being thrown around this season is about reading the room. And besides Eugene's intelligence, his one major strength, or strong point for that matter, is the ability to read people around them and how to use them to his advantage. I kind of think that I skew more to this being a ploy rather than I'm buying into the whole "you had me at Negan" type ploy that he's enacting. Dr. Carson's had a firm grasp on who Sherry and Dwight were. Do you think that knowledge led to him paying the iron price? And if you were Dwight, Ig, would you have handled it the same way?
Yeah, I think I would have. And that's where the chaotic good comes in a little bit. It's one of those things where you needed to protect yourself a little bit, and you could see that the doctor was somebody that was really a problem for him and somebody that could cause him and everybody else major problems going forward, because the doctor was Negan, basically, again, because, the whole I am Negan thing. The doctor was too big of a problem, and so hiding a little bit of stuff and oops, now you look bad.
Yeah, I think in this sort of world, you can really only be chaotic. And I think it's self-preservation, again, where you have to look out for yourself. I think that Dwight knew that if he didn't have some sort of better answer about what happened, that it was going to lay solely on his shoulders. And then also I think it does help protect, Sherry, because then they're not going to keep looking for her because he's handled it and he's, squarely put it on the doctor.
Yeah, I agree. I think self-preservation becomes more important than anything else in this world, and so he did what he had to do to save himself. And yeah, I totally agree with the point that Negan wasn't going to buy his story outright. Like he needed more, and that was the bit that was able to save him. I was a little surprised that Negan fell for it so easily, but maybe he didn't. Maybe there's more to come, but yeah, I wouldn't say it was the right thing to do, but he did what he had to do in this world.
Yeah, there were a couple things. To me, probably Negan's first misstep in the whole show is if you're going to cook yourself a Dr. Carson's, you really need to first marinate them for a couple days and then season them. You don't want to just throw them directly in the oven, especially with the wrapper on. It's not going to cook evenly. It's going to be an issue.
Turning down all future barbecue requests from Negan.
Yeah.
and Cynic, for that matter. Now that Sherry has escaped, where is she headed, Julie?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm assuming she's going to be found by someone, but I'm not sure where she's headed. I mean, we know there's a variety of places she could be going to, but I'm not sure she knows where any of those places are. So I'm not sure.
There's definitely plenty of ways to get where you're going. We saw the sentimental homecoming, so to speak. At first, it kind of looked like Dwight was on a bit of a mission where it's just seek and destroy or seek and capture and bring back the Negan. But then we get into this whole sentimental letter about who Dwight was and who Daryl represented. And he brought the pretzels and beer. And what did that really heartfelt moment mean to you?
Oh, that was ugly cry moment. That could have been so bad because, she wrote this letter saying that you've become something else. And that scene showed that he really hadn't, that he was doing necessary things to survive in the compound, doing necessary things to survive with the Saviors. But his long-term game was to get away from it. So I think that, our past predictions are coming true, that, Dwight is looking for a way to fuck over the Saviors.
What do you think, Ryan? Was he, did it tug at the old heartstrings, the letter and the beer and the pretzels?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's conflicted. We've seen it throughout the show. He's definitely not, I wouldn't say that he's a good guy who's doing bad things and just trying to figure out how to get out, because we've seen him take pleasure in other people's suffering. But at the same time, I don't think he's completely crossed over into, being completely an evil person. So what I think is maybe that letter maybe is a catalyst for him to make some changes or to do some good or, to right some wrongs. So I see it as, I think it did tug at his heartstrings, and I think it was important because it might be able to, where he may have been going too far in one direction, maybe it pulls him back just enough to do the right thing.
Do you think Eugene's feeling a level of respect and empowerment from Negan that he never got from Rick's group, IG?
No, I don't necessarily think he feels that. I think he feels more like, I've got you kind of cornered, that you need me, or you think you need me. And they don't, because it's all a lie, and he can do some simple parlor tricks that make it look like he knows stuff. Like he spent a lot of time watching Bill Nye the Science Guy and learned how to do the tricks making hydrogen and everything, but he didn't really do anything all that impressive. It's all elementary school science. Now, making bullets is a little more impressive, but it's not that impressive. Not like he was making his own powder or anything. And smelting bullets together isn't that difficult. I mean, especially when you find the right tools, which he did because he found the machine shop. So I think he just has them cornered, and they don't know enough to know that he's full of shit.
Do you think Dr. Smarty Pants is resorting back to the Human Genome Project lie, that old gag, will end up with him getting the iron or worse, Julie?
Yeah, I think that could definitely happen if he's busted on this, for sure. And that could happen at any point because now they have no doctor and they're going to be depending on him. that lie is going to come out here probably pretty quickly.
Oh, but there is another doctor, one of the Easter eggs. And I found this kind of odd, and I was a little confused by the whole thing. I was like, wait, there's a Dr. Carson at the sanctuary, but there's a Dr. Carson at Hilltop as well. So when he said we have another doctor, he could have been meeting Eugene, or somebody might be leaving Hilltop in pretty fast fashion.
Oh, that's a good point.
Ryan, do you think his lie about the Human Genome Project will end up coming back to bite him in the ass?
I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I think when it came up initially, there was a reason for it because his lie had gone so far. Like, his lie was taking them somewhere that he couldn't take. He had to stop. Where in this point, I think the lie is just kind of to give him, to establish some credibility, but there's nothing beyond that. He's not taking them anywhere. He's not saying that, I based on my knowledge, I can solve all of the problems. I can, turn the zombies back or stop the outbreak. He just used it to establish credibility, and that's it. So unless somebody else shows up that was part of that, or some which I don't see happening, I don't think that lie will come back to haunt him.
Eugene was quick to bow down and become Negan. Why do you think that was, Julie? And do you think he's betrayed Rick's group?
Well, I think he is a coward, and I think that he knows that, you don't have to twist his arm very far to, he's going to succumb to any sort of torture, which is really, making him probably miss a meal is torture. So, that's nothing. He's going to fall for anything, and I think he just wanted to quickly get it over with. Look, I'm with you. I'm on your side. No need to worry about anything, and he just wanted to, get that out there. I don't think he is going to betray Rick's group. I think that while he, as I stated earlier, he can be with Negan and maybe enjoy some of the ancillary benefits of being there. But I think as far as knowing who Negan is, especially watching him throw the doctor into the incinerator and all of that, I think that who he is ultimately, and you could never fully feel comfortable there. Whereas with Rick's group, yes, you have fears about walkers or people invading, but it's not fearing Rick per se that he's going to come at you with a bat for doing something wrong.
What do you think, Ig? Do you think that he's betrayed Rick's group? Why did he bow down so quickly? And a bonus question for you: would you sell me out for a bag of cheese curds?
Cheese curds? You're done,
man.
Cheese curds are the best. Anyway, no, I don't think he's done it. I think what he's doing is he's biding his time. And the best way to bide your time in that kind of situation is to play along. Give the impression of playing nice. And he's the best at playing nice. We've seen that for the past few years. Eugene can just play nice. And whatever he's got with his hair going on, it helps him stick out. But he's got kind of that simpleton look on his face, but then he speaks so well that he says things kind of like he's got a problem, but not the problem everybody thinks he has. It's just working. He knows how to play the system, and that's what he's doing. And it's biding his time, and I think it's looking for opportunities where he can help from within. Because we all know that the attack is coming, and if he can keep himself alive and set himself up to do other things to some people there, when that attack comes, he's in a better situation.
Really, outside of Jesus, you can't think of a more perfect inside man to have in some place under siege than Eugene, because he's going to use the whole environment and the chaos to his advantage. So that is an interesting point. I didn't even really think about that. Like, the amount of damage that he could do inside the compound while everything is going on, while pretending to help, could be insurmountable.
But I see Eugene as more acting out of self-preservation. Like, I don't think he's going to actively betray Rick, but I think his desire to protect himself is like the primary means by which he works. So I don't see him sabotaging anything, unless, like, I could see him planning or plotting an escape if things turn the wrong way. But I don't see him betraying Rick, but I also don't necessarily see him actively trying to subvert the Saviors, unless something happens, somebody shows up that kind of gets the ball rolling on that. Otherwise, I see him kind of just doing what he's got to do to save himself. And yeah, he's gonna, he says I'm Negan because that's the smart thing to do. Anyway, I would do that.
I'm not Ryan. I'm Negan. Next.
Yeah, no, I would totally the smart thing to do, and but I don't know, and I don't think he believes it, but I also don't see him actively trying to sabotage things at this stage.
Once again, another completely relatable moment, because our good friend Cage and I at work have been in the same situation together, just standing there, staring off in the distance and wishing we were any place else but here. What did you think of the back and forth, IG, between Not Daryl and Eugene at the very end of the show?
You know, I think it might have been two people who really didn't mean anything. I'm Negan, you're Negan, we're Negan. And he's like, yep. Well, I don't think any of them are Negan. And I think they're just playing the game, and especially not Daryl. Dwight is totally not Negan, and I think it's coming to fruition very soon.
It was funny to see Dwight look at Eugene when he said, "We're Negan," because he kind of just looked over at him like, really? You're already on board with this? Like, that was pretty quick.
Yeah, especially since we don't know exactly how long Dwight has been there, but Eugene has the right idea. He's wearing the Negan better. You know, he's like, yeah, we're Negan. Yeah, everything's good. Keep walking. I also love Foreman Eugene yelling, "Hey, do you want to get burnt by molten metal? That's how you get burnt by molten metal. What you're doing right there." What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I love the back and forth. It was really a good bit of acting, and yeah, you could tell each person they don't know the other person, they don't quite trust the other person, and they're both full of crap. And I think they both know it. So it just made for a funny, fun little scene that actually kind of released a little bit of tension. I think both as a viewer and probably for them too. It is what it is. But it was a nice little scene to end the show.
This was a really solid episode for me. Great performance by Josh McDermott. He's finally gotten a chance to stand out, and I think he did. Some laugh out loud funny lines, like asking for lobster or dancing to Easy Street, or I was gifted these pickles. For once, I actually felt some real remorse for Dwight. I actually didn't hate the character in the moments with the letter and the regret and the just being completely conflicted. I don't believe for a second that Eugene is Negan. Haircut will avenge Abe's death one way or the other. I thought it was a very solid episode, maybe the best of this half season so far, and I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I was reading some things online and some people were saying it was a boring episode. And I think these are the kind of episodes that are great because I think you get more insight into some of these characters. We haven't gotten to know too much about Dwight's prior life, and we don't know too much about Eugene's prior life. So I think those are great moments to kind of give you insight to a little bit on who they were and are, why they are who they are. And I liked this episode a lot too. I thought it was a great building episode. I'd also give it an 8.5.
I'm going to give it an 8. Maybe 8.5. It sounds about right. I definitely agree. I think, they get it right. There are slow moving episodes where just nothing happens. And then you have an episode like this where not much happens to drive the plot forward, but we learn so much about the characters and the performances were so good that it's engaging. And it's just as good as an episode where they really move the plot forward. And I think, again, the dialogue is underrated on this show. It's some of the funniest, just really good, witty, funny, and kind of sounding realistic for that situation. And I don't think The Walking Dead gets a lot of credit for that, but the writing was great for this episode. Again, you got great insight into both Eugene and Dwight and their performances, both acting out the dialogue and also just non-verbal performances were really good. Like you could feel the emotion from both of them and what they were going through, just the myriad of emotions they were going through. So I think it was really great performances and I really enjoyed the episode. I think of the second half of the season, this is easily the best episode so far. So yeah, I'd give it 8.5 definitely. Yeah,
I'm going to give it an 8.5 as well. I mean, the funniest episode in a long time, which I really enjoyed, especially with all of the things happening. Last week we had all the up and talking like Nell, and this week we actually get some actual conversations and listening to Eugene talk like he's got some form of Asperger's. It's really a big swing where it's a lot of fun to go with. So there we go. Episode 11, Hostiles and Calamities, The Walking Dead, 8.5 from the Cynic Radio podcast. Coming up, we have What's Up and a little bit of John Wick. Stay tuned.
Miss out on that latest viral video? Didn't see the most recent trailer for the next movie coming out? In the dark about what the biggest song in America is? we've got you covered. Every week we scour the internet and look for the latest and greatest. This is What's Up.
Hey guys, my What's Up this week is for the Maryland mother who sent her son the trash he neglected to take out when he was home for the weekend back to his dorm in college. Now you may be saying to yourself, Jules, shouldn't this be a really? Well, the answer is no, my friends. This is a What's Up in every sense of the word. Kudos to this mom who took her power back and mailed that job back to her kid who thought he had lucked out on skipping this chore. No, my friend, it came right back at you, and I'm sure you had to walk farther to dump that trash at school than you would have had to do it at home. So let this be a lesson to all you kids out there. Some parents aren't about to let a little thing like paying postage on a box of trash stand in the way to teach you guys a lesson. So to that Maryland mom, you are What's Up.
So what's up for me this week is Get Out, directed by Jordan Peele of Key and Peele fame. This movie was unexpectedly just really good. I'd seen the previews for it and it seemed interesting, and then it had gotten really good buzz the past couple weeks, so I decided to see it opening weekend, and I must say it's really a solid movie that's totally worth seeing. It's hilarious, even though it's it's supposed to be more of a horror kind of thriller. It's really funny. It's really tense at times. You don't really know where things are headed, and there's some kind of twists throughout the movie. The performances are really good. Just can't really say enough about it. Especially it really captures the experience of being kind of minority in a situation where you're the only one, and the kind of weird stuff that people will say, not intentionally, but just kind of the strange stuff that happens. It really just captures a lot, without trying to hit you over the head, let's say, with the race stuff. But yeah, it's definitely really good. Again, great horror movie, scary, funny, witty, really smart, and definitely go out and see it if you haven't yet. So what's up for me is Get Out.
What's up for me this week? It's the new HBO show Crashing, from stand-up Pete Holmes and the great Judd Apatow. I'm a huge admirer of dark comedy, and this show delivers. I really enjoy the pseudo-background look at stand-ups and their self-hating subculture. It just fascinates me. With guest stars like the always brutally funny Artie Lang and TJ Miller, this show has great potential. We follow the main character Pete as he plays himself, obviously, and he deals with being a struggling stand-up in New York City, but also walking in on his wife cheating on him. For anyone who's a fan of comedy, you should definitely check this out. But I warn you, it's not for the easily offended. Crashing on HBO. That's what's up.
What's up for me this week is the 1994 song Waterfalls by TLC. I know it's not 1994, we're in 2017, but this song was just redone by the voice coaches, Alicia Keys, Adam Levine, Blake Shelton, and Gwen Stefani, as a promo for the next season of The Voice. And this shows why these judges have serious chops. It's a mostly acoustic version of the song, and it is amazing. You can find it on YouTube right now. It is one of the top trending videos on YouTube. Go check it out. Waterfalls by the voice coaches. That's what's up.
All right, today we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about John Wick Chapter 2. Now, I realize it's still in the movies, and people are hypersensitive about spoilers, so we'll do our best to kind of stay away from the spoilers, but if you need be, just fast forward past this part. So, IG, my first question about John Wick Chapter 2 is, were you a fan of the first movie? If yes, why? And if no, why not?
I was a big fan of the first movie, and the thing is I've said to a lot of friends over the past that Keanu Reeves especially has a wheelhouse. There's a place where he belongs, and this is the kind of movie where Keanu Reeves belongs. It doesn't require a lot of range in his emotions. He basically gets to be a little bit of sad, which he's very good at sad. We've all seen the sad Keanu Reeves memes all over the internet. And angry, which he's very good at angry. It's very reminiscent of The Matrix without all of the wire work and super cameras floating around. It's a lot of fun. It's a very simple story. It had a great cast. It was just a ton of fun.
So I really enjoyed the first one. It was just unexpected. I think, you just expect it to be kind of a standard action movie. And in a lot of ways it was, but it kind of hooked you in with the dog. That just kind of pulled you in and made you feel okay with him murdering everybody. And I mean, the action was really good. It subtly built its own world. It didn't hit you over the head, or it just kind of it kind of felt organic in how it developed. So I really enjoyed it. And when I heard they were doing the sequel, I was excited but a little bit skeptical.
Yeah, I agree. I like Keanu Reeves, the person, as much as I do the actor. I mean, a life marred by tragedy, but he kind of keeps to being a normal guy. He, rides the subway to work every day. He doesn't live in a mansion. The neat part about the John Wick stuff is that most of the things in the movies he can actually do. There's a ton of videos out there showing him doing this gunplay and very little special effects going on there. Now, I don't think he ever killed a guy with just a pencil, or 3 guys for that matter. But if he did, I wouldn't doubt him. Did you think a sequel was necessary?
As the thing is with most things, I mean, I know why they made a sequel. They made so much money with the original John Wick, and it did so well, and it even did well on DVD. It did well on rental. They needed to cash in on their cash cow. They didn't need to make a sequel, but they did a pretty good job. It's not bad.
And, sequels are never rarely necessary, and the cynic in me, see what I did there, thought that, it's just kind of a cash grab. But at the same time, when you do have a movie that does kind of build its own world and its own kind of mythos or mythology, you do want to know more about it. So, in some ways, kind of the courageous thing to do would almost be, nope, that's it, we're done, we'll take our ball and go home, and let you kind of develop it in your own mind. But there was enough there that a sequel could really, there was enough there to build on that would make a sequel worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree. Anything that makes money anymore obviously is going to get a sequel, and it's not really a sequel in the old-fashioned sense. It's not that we're not taking the characters and kind of pushing them onto a story. It's more like a continuation from the first movie. Like they finished up the small finer points before they kind of moved on to the next thing. So that was kind of neat. It really tied the two movies together, in my opinion. So the director is referring to this hybrid genre as gung fu, which refers to choreographed kung fu fighting that's intertwined with traditional gunplay. But the one thing I don't understand is, even in the alpha underworld of the crime syndicate, if they think John Wick is such a badass, why do they instigate him? It just defies logic.
Yeah, it just does not seem like the right thing to do. Somebody that is this adept, and I mean, if you saw the first one, so we can do spoilers on the first one, they were calling him Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. He was somebody that couldn't be defeated. They gave him an impossible task, and he completed it. This is just not a guy that you mess with. And the gun fu thing started back in 2002 with a movie called Equilibrium. That was with Christian Bale. It was a really good movie, and if you haven't seen it, it's kind of a forgotten about movie. A lot of people didn't see it, but it's really good. Go check that one out. And they call it, I think, gun kata in that movie, where they have these agents that actually do a class and learn how to basically move around fluidly while shooting and fighting and everything. This had a beginning somewhere, but that was more futuristic. John Wick is more current.
Yeah, he is. And I guess as we talk about when I talk about The Walking Dead, it's hubris. I think, when you have people that are, we're seeing things from his perspective. So obviously he's the ultimate badass, but I think every other villain that he's engaging with in their own ways are also the ultimate badass. So they're going to feel that they're the one to defeat him. And I guess he's a step above, but it's kind of like an athlete that wants to make, they can make their name off the if they can knock the big dog off their perch, or like just completely mixing up analogies there. But if you can knock the big person off, you become the ultimate badass. So that might be some of the motivation for why people act as they do.
If the dude's killing 3 guys with a pencil, I don't care if he killed my whole family. I don't care if he ate the rest of my Reese's peanut butter cups. I mean, I don't care if he wrote a bad review of this podcast on iTunes. I'm giving him a wide berth. I'm not going to go to his house and kill his dog or his wife or steal his morning paper. I just don't understand it. But I get that, suspension of disbelief and there wouldn't be a movie. But you would just think that people would be, maybe the car in the first movie wasn't worth it. The generic Russian mob boss responds to Wick's offer of peace by saying, "A man like you will never find peace." Do you think that's true?
I think it probably is. It's something where when you've been that deep into a life like that, it's really hard to just avoid it forever. I mean, it's a struggle that you see kind of with everything. I mean, as bad as it sounds, I mean, alcoholics fight with alcoholism for the rest of their lives typically. And this seems by far a bigger entrenching hole than alcoholism, at least in how they present it in the movie.
I don't know that he'll ever find peace. Again, the cynic in me, obviously for money plot purposes, or for money purposes, they'll find reasons for him to find conflicts. But as the way the character's developed, it's interesting because he wants out, but I guess it's one of those situations where once you're in, it's really impossible to get out. And being as well known and as good as he is, he'll always find, whether it's somebody who needs to use him or he finds himself in conflict with somebody, or someone comes from the past. There are many angles to go, so I don't think he'll ever find peace, both as a character or as a movie / TV / book, comic, whatever franchise that this is bound to become.
And it really seems, too, like the more he digs himself out of one situation, he's kind of cast back into another one, and the hole gets deeper every single time. If he never does find peace, I don't think it's because he's a violent guy. I don't think it's because he's an angry guy. I think it's the set of circumstances that he finds him in.
Right. And while I agree with that, I think it's also because he's affected so many other things in his life. And I know I compared it to alcoholism, but the problem is it's... the alcohol isn't coming to your door and trying to, kick your dog, where obviously the people that he wronged in his previous life might just do that, as they did in the first movie.
The first movie bolstered a strong supporting cast of Willem Dafoe, Alfie Allen, Dean Winters, and this one's kind of headed up by Common, Ruby Rose, and a slight bit of Lawrence Fishburne. Which cast did you think was better?
I liked the first cast better, but this one wasn't one to put down. Common is a good actor for someone who's a rap star. Ruby Rose does the right thing in this movie and doesn't speak. That might be a spoiler, not too big of a one, because we could all do with less Ruby Rose opening her mouth.
I think both supporting casts were really good. I would say a lot of the same characters. I would say the first cast is slightly better. I think this cast was a better cast if you looked at it on paper, but I liked the performances in the first a little bit better. I really liked William Dafoe. I liked Michael, however you pronounce his name. I really liked him as a villain, as an actor. Alfie Allen's great. So I think that the performances, especially the villains, of the two main villains, I think was a little bit better in the last movie. I think this one they were kind of bland as characters. So I would say I'd go with the first one just by a hair, as far as like who I thought was the better cast.
One thing I did find a bit unsettling, though. The Underworld Crime Syndicate and the Mario Brothers share the same monetary system. Bling, bling! Without giving any spoilers away, what did you think of rap star Common as John's primary physical adversary?
I'd have been happier if John Wick was running around wearing red and blue and Common was wearing green and blue, and maybe they're just brothers that wanted to chase each other around and gather their, like you said, their Mario denominations. But Common did a great job. Plain and simple, Common did a great job. He was believable. It was very intriguing how they put it together.
Yeah, Common was. I mean, I like Common. I think he's a great rapper. He's one of my favorite. He's very thoughtful and a very good lyricist, but and a solid, like, underrated actor. I really like him in on Hell on Wheels and a bunch of other things. Outside of it being in Suicide Squad, I really like him as an actor, as a performer, I guess. In this, he's fine, but he physically presents, a strong adversary. And I think, I follow him on Facebook, so you'd see a lot of the training he was doing, and it shows. Like, it really showed that he, when it wasn't a stuntman and it was him, like that he really went prepared for the role and had done the work, and kind of like we see, Keanu Reeves does a lot of his own stunts, and you can see his preparation. You can see the same thing. So they were a physical match, not only as far as how the characters were developed, but you can just see that they both took their roles seriously and they prepared for it, and it comes through on screen, where you have the two actors really doing a lot of their own stunts, performing together. It really, really worked well, and I think he was a great kind of great physical adversary. Yeah,
it ends with an interesting twist, too, that I wonder if it'll come back to kind of bite John Wick in the ass. One problem I did have, I love, starting all the way back with They Live with Roddy Piper, I love the over-the-top hour and a half long fight scene. I'll watch it all day. It's just two guys, like, it's not believable. Somebody would be dead at the end of this, but there was a portion of their big showdown where they had to fall down at least 1,000 steps, and they were still building steps as they were falling. Completely unbelievable, in my opinion. What did you think of that?
It was so unbelievable, but I mean, it's like somehow marble escalator that kept going or something, because that's the only way they could have made it happen. It's one of those things where you have to have the suspension of disbelief. This guy is better than anyone you've ever known, because, I mean, most of us fall down 3 steps and we're down for a week.
Yeah, or you break a hip, or you'll be on disability. Revenge and Gun Fu are the centerpieces of these movies. Do you think the sequel lived up to the high bar the first one set?
Well, with the action sequences, I think they actually pumped it up a notch. They did a very good job in seeing what worked in the first one and amping that in the second one. So while I think that the story suffered a little in the second one, the action improved.
I thought the plot in the first one was a little more direct. It was pretty much straight revenge. It was kind of less convoluted. The double cross and betrayal, I kind of prefer in the second one. I kind of preferred the first one. However, a slight spoiler, the movie leaves itself open for a third, and I think a third movie is absolutely necessary, and I can't wait for it. What do you rate John Wick Chapter 2?
John Wick Chapter 2, I'm going to go ahead and give it an 8. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Story could have done a little better, but the action by far made up for it. Wonderful job by the entire cast, and a lot of really neat looks into something that obviously couldn't exist.
I agree. The story was the only thing really holding it back. I enjoyed the acting. I enjoy Keanu Reeves' deadpan and almost sometimes comical answers. You want to be back? Well, I'm back. The story held it back a little bit, but the action kind of made up for it. I would say it's a solid 7.
I think the style of this was, it was the first one on steroids in a lot of ways, as far as comparing the two. It was, more stylized. It had, the action, everything was bigger and better as far as, action and the style of the movie. But I didn't quite like the villains' performances as well, or as much as the first. And I think the first was able to hook you with the dog. I mean, it's just impossible to do that, and also just unexpected. Like I didn't expect it to be that good. Didn't expect the action. Didn't expect to be hooked into it. So I think the first just had that element of surprise that I don't know that any of the other ones could really get. And not to say it wasn't good, because I really enjoyed it. And I would say I'd give it a solid 7.5 to 8 out of 10. I'd say 7.5, because I'd say the first was about an 8. You can't give that much higher than that. But it didn't quite grab you like the first one did. But I didn't expect it to. But it did what the first one did well with the action, and it built on a story. And obviously looks like we're gonna get some more. So I guess those are my own kind of thoughts on it. Definitely solid. And a solid follow up to the first one, and I'm actually excited to see. Obviously they've done a good job setting up the next one, so I'm interested to see where they go with that, because they actually have a story for it and a place for it to go right away. So that'll be interesting to see, and I guess it'll take a bit of a turn, but then we have to see him. We'll really have to see him at his best in the third iteration of this franchise.
And there you have it from the Cynic Radio podcast, John Wick Chapter 2. We're going to give it a 7.5. It's in theaters now. Go check it out. Coming up now, Really. So now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time for Really. I'd explain it. Just listen. You'll get it.
Hey guys, my Really this week is for the people who keep pushing this Cash Me Outside girl on me. Her real name, I don't care, because that is the point of my Really. I know it's been said before, but please let me say it again. Can we all collectively work together and not make jackasses like this an overnight sensation? And I'm talking directly to you, TMZ and Bitmoji. I can understand viral videos. We all like getting them. They're funny. We pass them around. And all of a sudden, somebody you've never even heard of becomes an overnight sensation. But when we're glorifying idiots like this 13-year-old girl, who I'm not even sure was even even actually speaking a language anyone has ever heard of, is all of a sudden famous for saying, cash me outside so she can beat people's asses. This has gone too far. This girl has several apps in the App Store, a t-shirt line, and who knows what else on the horizon. Please, stop. This girl should not be in LA being interviewed by TMZ. She needs to get her ass back to school and be an 8th grader. So, anyone who keeps letting this girl maintain that 15 minutes of fame, really?
My really for this week goes to the Arizona senators who decided to subvert the Constitution and our First Amendment and put into place a law that would allow police to seize the assets of those who plan and participate in protests that turn violent. So look, obviously, I don't think any protest should turn violent, and anybody who is a violent actor in a protest deserves to be punished. But protesting is one of the things that our country is founded on. It's necessary, and this isn't a partisan issue, although it seems to be turning into that. We should be allowed to protest. We should not be discouraged from it. It is part of our society. And yes, again, if you make things violent, you should be punished. But you can't. But putting into place a law like this is ridiculous, and it only serves to discourage people from doing it. Because if I want to plan a protest because I think something's wrong, maybe I won't do it because I'm afraid I'll get arrested or I'll have my assets seized in the event that it turns violent, even if I'm not an actor. It's just ridiculous, and it just fundamentally goes against everything this country is supposed to stand for. And I hope that every single senator that voted for that gets voted out, because it's just ridiculous, and they're doing this country a disservice. And I don't like to get too political, but this goes beyond politics. This is just ridiculous, and any reasonable person should see that. It's just ridiculous. And so to the Arizona Senate, really?
Well, really for me this week is Burger King. Over the last year or so, they've spent a combined $12.8 billion, yes, I said billion dollars, to buy Popeyes and Tim Hortons, which just completely blows my mind. It also ruins their argument that if they paid their employees over minimum wage, they would go broke. My only question is to the owners of the BK, have you tried your food? Why not invest that money into making an edible product? By buying these once decent chains, you're not making your brand better, you're making fast food worse. Burger King, $12.8 billion. Really?
Really for me this week goes out to the latest craze of women during their menstruation periods using this new product to basically glue their vaginas shut. Ladies, what is happening to you on generally a monthly basis between puberty and menopause is a natural, wonderful thing. Gluing yourself shut is just crazy. That and the product that is out right now, called Menses, was developed by a chiropractor in Wichita. So I don't know if this is the right guy to trust with your hoo-ha's safety. So ladies, you don't need to turn your body into a biological diva cup. There's plenty of products out there that can control all of the mess that goes along with having your periods. And any men that are disgusted by it will just have to learn to deal with it, because it is a natural, beautiful thing that happens in a young lady's life. So stop doing this to yourselves. Stop hurting yourselves. Stop gluing your vagina shut. And to Daniel Dops, this Wichita chiropractor and creator of Menses, really? And that's going to do it for episode 20 of the Cynic Radio Podcast. I'm Igrahi. With me has been my co-host Cynic. Joining us this week has been Jules. Send us your comments, questions, concerns, and a jar of pickles to cynicradio@gmail.com. Find us online at cynicradio.com. Look for us on Facebook at facebook.com/cynicradio, and find us on Twitter @cynicradio. Next week, we'll be back with some more exciting stuff, including the next episode of The Walking Dead. And until then, don't get captured.
Follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and at CINIKRADIO.com. Available for download on iTunes.